Hey, how's it going? I'm IlaGolden and welcome to Ila Reads.
Piccolo had waited until Synth had gone to bed before edging towards Echoe as though she had something to say. Knowing whatever was about to happen couldn't be avoided, Echoe patted her lap and obediently Piccolo climbed on. "I'm guessing you've made a decision." Echoe forced herself to break the silence in order to make it easier for her daughter. Her response was quiet and mute. I've decided that as soon as Patch and Cleo have a bigger place with a room for me, I will go live with them for a while." "Okay." She did her best to keep her own voice steady. "But you know they've been looking for a place since your Patch moved out. It could take them a while to find one." "I know." She pressed her lips together. "But it also gives me time to make sure I'm absolutely sure about this before it happens. I don't think I'm going to change my mind because this is how I really feel right now, but moving out is a scary thing to do and you want to feel ready for it." Echoe did her best to fill in the blank. She lowered her gaze. "You're not angry at me, are you, Mama?" "No, of course not, my sweet child." She pulls her into a tight hug. "I am sad, though, and when you move out, I'll be even sadder. But all I want is for you and your brother to be happy, and if this is what you feel you need for that to happen, then I'm not going to stop you." "I wish I could. Believe me, I do, but—" "I know, Mama." Her fingers began twisting into Echoe's top. "I'm sorry I feel this way. I don't want to hurt you." "I know, Pico, but none of us can help the way we feel. Just remember that I love you, and that I'm going to do my best to make you change your mind in whatever time we have." "I know. I love you too, but I don't think anything you do will make me change my mind. This is what I want, even if it is really scary." "I know, my sweet child, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to try. You and your brother are the most important things in my life, and nothing's going to change that." A mixture of emotion moved through Echoe as she made her way through the theatre's foyer that morning, most of which abated in surprise when she saw Jet and Sonata together again. This time they were in her direct line of sight, and it was pretty obvious it was far from a friendly encounter. After hesitating over the best thing to do for a moment, Echoe wheeled towards them, almost instantly putting a stop to their argument as she did. "I don't know what he's told you, Echoe." Sonata appeared surprisingly upset. "But whatever it is, it's not what you think." "He hasn't told me anything." Echoe shook her head. "Whatever this argument is about, I'm sure you don't need to be having it right now. The worst thing an actor can be before rehearsal is distracted by unrelated things." "Like you were yesterday, you mean?" Sonata narrowed her gaze. "Don't think for a second Liz was the only one who noticed. In fact, everyone could tell something was eating at you." "And that's exactly how I know it's not a good idea," she glared back. "So I'm saying this for everyone's sake. Drop it now, go your separate ways, and calm down before you need to be on stage." Sonata huffed, rolled her eyes, folded her arms, and stormed off in the direction of the rehearsal stage's backstage area. Giving a heavy sigh, Echoe flicked her gaze up towards Jet. There was something about the tight look on his face which made it hard to tell what he was thinking about, and at the same time, "She's not worth it, you know." The words were out of her mouth before she could stop them. "What?" He shot her a confused look. "You think I'm interested in a stuck-up bitch like her?" He pointed in the direction Sonata had left in. "Give me some credit, Echoe, please. Besides, I really doubt that I'm her type, and she's certainly not mine." "Sorry." She shifted her gaze away. "It's just... well, I know she has a habit of rejecting guys, and not all of them have taken it well." "Well, that's an understatement." He rolled his eyes. "From what I've heard..." He hesitated for a moment. "From what I've heard, after Alonzo died, everyone's been too afraid to go near her and her exacting standards. Then again, I don't think she's been asked out ever. Never mind had guys angrily pursuing her after a rejection. Not when there are so many other reasons for them to dislike her." There was something odd about his tone, but Echoe couldn't quite tell what it was. "I don't understand." She studied him for a moment. "This isn't the first time I've seen you arguing with her. I know I shouldn't have assumed, but... Look, I'll level with you a little here. I understand the pressures involved when you come from a powerhouse family in an industry like ours." He turned away. "I have aunts, uncles and cousins who've behaved appallingly in the past, which I guess you must know about, because everyone seems to know about the troubles in my more than extensive family, even if they don't know we're all related. I also know how expensive it can be to cover up the worst of it, and I don't just mean financially. His jaw tightened, his fists clenched, and his gaze lowered. Some people pay too high a price for who they are, and most of them, like my brother, don't deserve it. And you're trying to make sure she doesn't have to pay such a high price? A light of understanding buzzed through Echoe's head. You were trying to help her and she rejected your offer? Something like that. There was something odd about his expression, somehow both flirtatious and enlightened, which made Echoe feel a little odd. And trust me, this is too important for me to give up on here. I would ask for your help. An almost genuine smile appeared on his face. But I'm not sure you'd fare any better. No, but she might listen to our parents. She tilted her head thoughtfully. I can give you their number if you like, or arrange a meeting with them so you can explain exactly what it is you think Sunny needs. Thanks. He placed a hand on Echoe's arm and lowered his gaze. I'm not sure I could put up with talking to that brick wall about it again. His eyes lifted to meet with hers. Not when there are much more interesting people I'd rather be talking with. Okay, we'll talk about it later. Echoe could feel the heat rising to her cheeks. Right now we have rehearsals to get to. Right, we should be in there already. Jet checked his watch. After you. He moved towards the door and pushed it open. Why, thank you, Mr. Bubblestream. She rolled past him. And they say chivalry is dead. Not dead, just dying as far as I can tell. He laughed in a way which sounded both cute and strangely awkward. You don't relax easily, do you? She half glanced towards him as they made their way towards May and Zanny. It's the imp in me, I guess, he shrugged. I'm not saying all imps are like it, but most have trouble expressing themselves emotionally. Which I guess is why people think they're cold and up themselves and whatever else it is that really pisses the imps off and causes them to strike back. I won't say all imps were like that. Echoe pressed her lips together. I've never heard of an incident when more than 2 imps have ever lashed out or whatever at a time. Saying the imps like that makes it sound like they go to war every time they're pissed off. I think the truth is they just have very short fuses because, like you said, they're not very good at dealing with their emotions. I think the rest of us are the ones who need to be a little more sympathetic and understanding to the differences of others. Because, in reality, there are a lot more well-mannered, socially adjusted imps than there are those who, you know. Yeah, I know, but that doesn't mean people have to see it that way. No, they don't. But you seem to be doing a good job of shaking the stereotype. I mean, I know you're only part imp, but... Yeah, whatever. He rolled his eyes and looked almost embarrassed. Can we drop all this now? I really don't want Princess Lala and her keeper to know about this. You know, you could be a little nicer to both of them. I'll be nicer when they do something to earn that kind of respect, he smirked. Besides, believe it or not, they really are growing on me. You mean the insult was supposed to be a term of endearment? Echoe cocked an eyebrow. Something like that. That flirtatious smile again, this time accompanied by a shrug. But, like I said, let's drop all this, for now, okay? Sure, Jet. Whatever makes you comfortable. They'd just finished going through the theory of the letter sequence for the 5th time that day, when Liz decided it was a good idea to run all the crew scenes together in one go. We'll do it once before lunch, then once again after. When we're done, you can go pick up the little ones and go home for the day, darling. Liz smiled at her. That's if that's okay with you. Sounds like a good plan to me, Lilith, she smiled back as she found herself being lifted up into the air. She was more than used to the sensation of being lifted now and almost had a feel for each of the locking points along the way. That's what she'd started calling the positions along the line, where they could be kept suspended rather than moving. And, although the movement itself looked smooth, Echoe always felt a little bump as she crossed over these points. She was just going past the 3rd from the top when she felt the line snag, then slip just a little. For a few seconds it caused her heartbeat to accelerate, but this wasn't the first time she'd felt a slight slip in the line, so she wasn't too worried. She was pulled past the locking point again, and again there was a snag and a slip. This time it was enough to cause a wave of anxiety to move through her. What's going on back there, Arnie? Liz sounded more than a little annoyed. If I catch someone messing with the controls on purpose, they'll be out of here faster than you can say fired. As she spoke, Echoe began rising smoothly again. She was almost at the top and final locking point, when she began a sudden and unexpected free fall towards the ground. In her head, everything was happening in slow motion, real time, and too quickly to comprehend all at the same time. Random thoughts and images flashed before her eyes as she heard the screams and shouts creating chaos around her. She didn't know if her descent would take her all the way to the ground or not, but she made her whole body go limp to minimize whatever damage might be caused. She could have been no more than 3 foot from the ground when she felt a pair of arms swoop in to catch her. In the first brief second, she could have sworn she saw a face she almost recognised, but after that second passed, she found herself staring at nothing as invisible arms lowered her to the ground. Her soft landing came with a flurry of concerned people gathering around her, including Sonata. "I didn't know you could levitate." Despite the forced, sulky tones in her voice, it was pretty obvious Sonata was at least a little concerned by what had happened. "I can't," Echoe swallowed hard. I'm not entirely sure what just happened." "Well, I know I was trying to use my telekinesis to slow your descent. By this time, Zanny and the other members of the crew had managed a safe landing and had made their way over." Yeah, me too." Twigs shifted her gaze awkwardly, as though she were embarrassed by her own act of attempted heroism. "And I'm sure you were instinctively using your own to attempt to slow a descent." Lilith picked up before anyone else could say anything. "Between the three of you, there must have been just enough power to cushion your fall." "I don't know what's going on." Kitty's blue hair was notably dishevelled as she emerged from backstage. "The control panel for the rig just went crazy all of a sudden. Arnie thinks there's some kind of fault with it, but..." She adjusted her slightly askew glasses and shrugged. "I guess that means calling someone out." Lilith rolled her eyes, giving a heavy sigh she did. "What were you doing back there, anyway? I thought you were supposed to be meeting with Zero. Man's an absolute drama queen, but good costume designers are hard to come by, and the last thing I want is for you to have stood him up." I was just on my way there when I heard the commotion." She gave a nervous cough, looking more like a caught-out teenager than a director's assistant. "Aren't the exits to this building in the other direction?" Lilith cocked an eyebrow. "Yeah, well, When I took you on, I thought you said you were serious about moving up in the theatrical world. Don't you have dreams of becoming a director? Or did those all go out the window the second a good-looking young man turned your head?" She gave another little cough as she composed herself. "You're right, Miss Triumph. I am serious about making a career in this industry. I had gone backstage to say goodbye to Arnie before I left. I still have a good half hour before the meeting with Zero begins. If I leave now, I will make it." "Now, why couldn't you have just said that to begin with? I have no problem with my crew fraternising as long as they do their job properly. Now go, before you really do miss that meeting." She pointed towards the doors at the back of the theatre. Without any hesitation, Kizzy made her way towards them, her eyes shooting strangely back towards the stage for a moment, as though she were hoping to see someone or something. Inside, Echoe felt herself groan. Kizzy was already immature and temperamental. If she added unreliable to her list too, then she really wasn't going to last much longer. Still, Liz's assistant really wasn't her concern. "Right, I want all four of you off of those wires now." Liz's eyes moved up and down the members of the crew. "Until we've had someone out to check everything over, I don't want to risk another incident like this one happening. Do you understand?" "You don't need to tell me twice." May was the first to detach her harness from the wires. "Echoe, darling, are you all right to keep going, or would you like to take some time to recover from the shock?" Liz focused her attention on her. "You can take as much time as you need. We can always pick this up again tomorrow." No, it's all right." A weak smile formed across Echoe's face. "I'd like to keep going now." "Your face seems to say otherwise." Her old friend looked doubtful. "It's less about want, more about need." She took a deep breath. "I need to keep going now, or else I might wobble too much to come back." Her words made Sonata make a strange, indistinguishable noise and turn away. Everyone else, however, just gave her weak, sympathetic smiles or understanding nods. It all felt a little patronising, but she guessed it was just because none of them really knew what to do now. "Well, if you're sure, darling, I'm not going to stop you." Lilith smiled before turning her attention towards Twigs. "Fetch Echoe's chair." Her eyes then turned towards the other members of the crew. "And I want the three of you in yours too. Until we get the rigging sorted, I want all four of you glued to those chairs whilst on stage. Do you understand?" They all nodded and went to fetch their chairs from stage side. By this time Twigs had reached Echoe with her own office chair, and the crowd which had gathered on stage began to disperse. "The number of times we've ended up on this floor since this began is getting a little ridiculous." Twigs' voice was tight and quiet as she and Lilith helped her into the chair. "And at least the last few times we were able to use the rig to get you back up again." "The bruises you must have don't bear thinking about, darling." Lilith was clearly oblivious to the odd tones in Twigs' voice. "Are you sat comfortably?" "I can adjust myself into position in a minute." Echoe smiled back as she unhooked the wires from her harness. Well, I guess since all the members of the crew can propel themselves once in their chairs, I've no need for you to be with them for the rest of the day. Liz turned towards her assistant. So instead I want you to find someone who can come out and check the rig as soon as possible. Then I want you to coordinate with Arnie and the rest of the backstage crew with props and scenery. We're missing so many things right now it almost doesn't bear thinking about. She waved her left hand whilst giving a despairing shake of her head. With Arnie? Twig sounded almost alarmed. Wouldn't you rather I coordinated with Skip? He's the one in charge of props. Oh, of course, that's who I meant. I guess my brain's a little scattered with watching a dear friend of mine almost sustain a serious injury. She shot her an almost impatient look. I expect what I've given you will take most of the day, but if it doesn't, I'm sure I'll be able to think of something later. She gave another dismissive wave of her hand. Now go. We have a rehearsal to get on with.
Enjoyed what you've heard so far? Please consider subscribing to find out when the next part's being released. Thanks for watching. See ya!